Hey everybody, this is James.
And Marco.
And Nabil.
And this is a Movie Pals podcast number 148. Today we are going to be continuing our Francis Ford Coppola Corner with a review of the 1996 film Jack, followed by a review of the new horror film Evil Dead Rise. So without further ado, let's get into our Francis Ford Coppola Corner.
Please, don't worry so much. Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day, make a wish. Think of me. And make your life spectacular. I know I did.
So everybody, this is it's been like 2 months since we did a Coppola film, by the way, I think. Since we did Dracula, right? Maybe a month and a half. It's been a while. I know you skipped a few.
It's been a couple months, yeah.
Yeah.
A couple weeks.
We didn't want a couple weeks, not a couple months. I mean, it was like, not since the 2022 have we talked about it. So we always give a little trivia. The last film that we did do was Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is in 1992. And if this is your first time listening to us, we are actually close to finishing now, by the way, our Francis Ford Coppola reviews. We started all the way from Dementia 13, his first theatrical released film, leading it all the way to his final film coming up here, Megalopolis, eventually. But we are now in the era where we are in the mid-90s, and he didn't make too many films after this one coming up. So we are nearing the end of our journey, which is still probably going to take a few more months.
Yeah, it'll be a brief hiatus, if anything. Just come back for one more hurrah.
So until then, we are still the Francis Ford Coppola podcast.
Oh, yeah. So some trivia, since Dracula to Jack here, we're going to give you, there's not too much info on it, of course, because it's during, after Dracula, it's kind of, I don't think Coppola was known for too much stuff after this. He produced a lot, but directing-wise, this is about Jack. So Coppola's next project was Jack, which was released on August 9th, 1996. Although a moderate box office success, grossing $58 million domestically on an estimated $45 million budget, it was panned by critics, many of whom disliked the film's abrupt contrast between actual comedy and tragic melodrama. It was also unfavorably compared with the 1988 film Big, in which Tom Hanks also played a child in a grown man's body.
Most critics felt that the screenplay was poorly written, not funny, and had unconvincing and unbelievable drama. Other critics felt that Coppola was too talented to be making this type of film. Although ridiculed for making the film, Coppola has defended it, saying he's not ashamed of the final cut of the movie. He had been friends with Robin Williams for many years and had always wanted to work with him as an actor. When Williams was offered the screenplay for Jack, he said he would only agree to do it if Coppola agreed to sign on as director.
Francis Ford Coppola said, quote, "Jack was a movie that everybody hated and I was constantly damned and ridiculed for. I must say I find Jack sweet and amusing. I don't dislike it as much as everyone, but that's obvious. I directed it. I know I should be ashamed of it, but I'm not. I don't know why everyone hated it so much. I think it was because of the type of movie it was. It was considered that I had made Apocalypse Now, and I'm like a Marty Scorsese type of director, and here I am making this dumb Disney film with Robin Williams. But I was always happy to do any type of film." End quote.
Yeah. This is very similar kind of him defending the Keanu Reeves accent and casting, I feel, if that makes sense.
Well, I think that's a very good quote from him, saying a lot of people compared him to Martin Scorsese or even Brian De Palma and things like that, because he was always happy to just take on, if he liked the story, he thought it was worthwhile, he directed it. It didn't matter what genre it was. He's always been very much a part of the script writing of the film and trying to get his vision on the screen. And as we've kind of gone through a lot of his his filmography, we've been able to see him, his tricks of the trade as far as the director is concerned. But in every film, it's never been about I'm only doing gangster films or I'm only doing heavy dramas or something. It's what he was passionate about, and he's made his choices even for the ones that were financially detrimentally debilitating for him. he still was happy to make those films.
You talking about One for the Heart?
Exactly.
You must be mentioning One for the Heart. Yeah.
Yeah, he's made some poor decisions, especially monetarily, but he always, you can see in every film, there was passion behind it. He was, doing it because he loved the project, even if there was problems surrounding it.
Yeah. And I mean, we've also seen now through God, this got to be 20 films in, guys. He's done other movies from those popular ones. We've seen all of his movies up to this point now, so that's why reading that quote too, I'm like, makes sense. Yeah, I can see that now. Before I would have never understood that. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. So but he's done 2 or 3 musicals too. So it's like, well, I mean, I didn't even know he did those. To tell you the truth. So
yeah. Before doing this with you guys, I just always saw him, like he said in his quote, as a Martin Scorsese type of director, doing these, serious films that have huge stakes and are deep and emotional. And now I'm like, holy shit, he really was everywhere. He did almost every single freaking genre that we could think of.
Did you guys see why Robin Williams was casting this, by the way, too? What had happened with Aladdin?
No.
I don't know if you guys are aware of it. It was the reason why he had first pick on this film because of it was called an apology clause or something like that, because he had only agreed to do Aladdin to play Genie if they did not include him in any of the advertisements or promotional things for it, because he wanted, he didn't want to be the focus of everything on that, and Disney did not do that. Obviously, he was heavily advertised for Aladdin, so I think it was a legal matter actually. So they burned him on that shit. So he had as an apology, some kind of contract was written up where any movie he wanted to do that was Disney orientated, basically, he had the first pick. There was nobody else, because I think John Travolta was actually the front runner for this, apparently, right?
I did hear that Travolta was the first choice.
Yeah. So but because Robin Williams wanted to do it, they were like, well, we have to do him. And then because with the Bill's part that he read, he would only do it if Coppola was going to be on as director on top of that. So he also wanted to work with
Makes sense.
With Coppola. I don't know if you noticed, actually, they filmed a lot of this movie. Actually, there are some scenes in Vallejo. I don't know if you noticed that. Mare Island, right?
Yeah,
it's close to
right
where
there.
Marco and where I live, actually, which is kind of cool. Yep. There's a few, places close to San Ramon, I think, too. And then obviously San Francisco. So it was all shot around here. So
it took place in Marin County, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the review of Jack.
Nature has given us all an internal clock. Your son's seems to be ticking faster than usual.
But he's healthy.
Absolutely. However, his cells are developing at 4 times the normal rate. If this continues throughout his life, by the time he reaches age 10, he could appear to be an ordinary, full-grown, 40-year-old man.
I'm telling you, he's our age, but he looks 40.
Jack Powell is a grown-up on the outside.
Why ain't he in school?
But on the inside,
Marco!
Bolo, he's all boy.
Gotcha! Don't touch me!
Just saying that Jack should start going to public schools.
I don't think he can fit in.
Just can't sleep. I had a scary dream. Can I sleep in here? Yeah, of course, buddy.
Are you sure he's ready for this?
The rest of the world I'm worried about.
All right, so Jack sitting at a whopping 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the plot of this one is, because of an unusual disorder that has aged him 4 times faster than a typical human being, Jack looks like a 40-year-old man as he starts 5th grade at public school after being homeschooled. This is again directed by Francis Ford Coppola, as we are continuing our Coppola Corner, coming in close to the end here. Written by James DeMonaco, who did The Negotiator in 1998, Assault on Precinct 13 in 2005, and The Purge in 2013, surprisingly enough. Also written by Gary Nadeau. Released on August 9th, 1996. It had a budget of $45 million, and its box office gross was a mere $58.6 million. So
apparently it did make money though. So,
it did. It
not a lot.
It barely broke even, but for a
will
movie to
say
be profitable,
this much. Yeah, but for Coppola stuff, I mean, like, not bad, right?
Yeah.
Anything with a positive above the budget is a good thing, even if it doesn't cover marketing costs.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like, you know what?
He did got to make double to cover
million.
marketing costs.
Yeah.
So
I know normally you have to get like double the budget to be considered successful or some shit, but I'm like, you know what? You did okay for this one.
Coppola.
The 80s just like
he came even at the front end, right?
Yeah, the 80s, like I said, just wrecked him. I remember every time we said something, and he lost another $40 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, this doesn't include video releases, I'm assuming.
I'm assuming not.
And I did see a
not.
lot of this. Yeah, a lot of these 90s films probably more on VHS. So probably
Yeah.
some
I think a lot of
sales
people did. It's got a lot more common during this time period, especially 96.
there.
I
Yeah.
wonder if it had the Disney clamshell.
It might have actually. I think it did.
Probably. Anyway, movie stars the great Robin Williams as Jack, Diane Lane as Karen Powell, Brian Kerwin as Brian Powell, Jennifer Lopez as Ms. Marquez, Bill Cosby, yep, I know, as Lawrence Woodruff, Fran Drescher as Dolores Durante, Todd Bosley as Eddie, and Michael McKean as Polly. Really nice cameo there. So again, we like to start with the history of the movie. We go down the line and see if we've seen it before, etc. So I'm going to start with Nabil. What's your history with the film, and have you seen Jack before prior to doing the podcast?
Yeah, I've seen it quite a few times. I used to watch it a lot on. I think it came on HBO a few times. I believe at one point I own a copy of it, and I saw it a few times as well. So I'd never seen it in the theaters, so there is that caveat. But home video, I watched it quite a few times.
All right, okay. What about you, James? What's your history with the movie, and have you seen it before?
I actually have seen this movie before. I had not seen it in a long time, but I saw this in theaters. I think I told you guys this. This is one of the... My parents took me out to see this movie when I was a kid. So I was only like 7 or 8 when it came out. So like kind of the key audience, I think, for this kind of film. I went on base actually and saw it, I remember. So strange memory, right? But yeah, I've seen it. I want to say I also saw it on HBO too, Nabil. Because we had, like everybody in back in the day, we had a black box.
Black box.
Mm-hmm.
But and I swear to God, this thing played like all the time.
Right, I remember.
Like, I
think it was like HBO 2 or something that it was on all the time.
Yeah, it was on one of them. I remember that, or one of the channels. Because man, I remember seeing this movie like more than once. Because I remember
they had to make up their money somehow. Okay.
Shit. Yeah. I remember when they were making. Well, yeah, because we also weren't paying for fucking HBO. I'm just like, but somebody on the street was. Sorry. Look it up, everyone. Black box, greatest invention in the world. That's how I saw a lot of movies. But yeah, I've seen it a couple times. But I haven't seen it probably since like the 90s. So this is a rewatch
it's almost
that
like
I haven't
a fresh
seen.
pair of eyes again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously not since I've learned a lot more about movies, and obviously back in the day as a kid, I did not know who Francis Ford Coppola was, and even looking through this list, I didn't even realize until we did this as well. I mean, obviously a couple months ago I realized it, but I didn't even realize he directed this movie. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, so I'm kind of that same person that was like, what do you mean you did this one? That's weird. Yeah.
All right. Looks like you guys have had some brief history with this one. I myself have no history with this movie. I remember seeing the trailer for it and not being interested at all.
Yeah, I mean, you were like 45 at the time, right? So, I mean, it's probably
46, really actually. I think it come out after my birthday.
Cigarette. He was in the bar seat. He's like, tell your hairy friend to get out of here.
I was like, oof, nah, this is not my bag, baby. Sorry, I'm going to go see some real movies. No, I never seen it. I never had interest in watching it. I like you, James. I didn't know Francis Ford Coppola directed this too. I was in shock. I was like, Jack, like that fucking shitty Robin Williams movie? What? No way. Say swear. So yeah, never seen it before. First time ever. Yep, seen it with fresh virgin eyes. So with that being said, Nabil, what did you think of Jack?
I'm watching it as an adult. There's a lot of plot holes. Yeah. There's a lot of things I'm like,
I'm a man now.
Yeah.
I'm Jack.
More so than Jack, apparently, in some instances. Yeah, I mean, the film was fine. It's way more kid focused than I realized. Even from the last time I watched it, watching it now, I'm like, okay, it really is for younger audiences, which didn't really come to mind at the time. Because you see a lot of Robin Williams films in the '90s. He always had that little sprinkle of adult flair into it, even in some of the jokes, like in Aladdin. This is very much tailored for kids. None of that flies in this movie. That's not happening here. But yeah, it was okay. I think the nostalgia was better than actually watching it again for me. But I just didn't realize how child focused it was, how children focused it was.
Yeah, that's fair. Before we move on to James, just fair warning, we're gonna go full spoilers on this. We do in all the Francis Ford Coppola movies,
just like every Coppola film.
So just in case it's your first time listening to us,
I wouldn't say there's much to spoil in this movie, but
yeah,
that's not really
someone's been holding off for fucking like 17 years, or they're like, man, don't ruin it for me now. Come on,
hold on, man.
Come on, I'm seeing it this weekend. I promise myself. Shit. Come on.
So James, what did you think of Jack?
It's gonna blow you guys' mind, man, but I actually still like this movie quite a bit.
I'm good.
Yeah. I think it has a really good message about life, and I think I'm going through a weird time right now in my own life where there's like a really good message at the end of the film, and something, I don't know, I just really needed that, I think. So I really liked Robin Williams in it too. I think it holds up. Something about Robin Williams always just makes me sad though every time I see him.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one of those things where, like, when I heard that Robin Williams died when I was in high school now, I think.
It wasn't that long ago. I feel like it was sooner than that.
No, I was like maybe college. I was that's one of the people that I was genuinely fucking sad about.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. Yeah, no, it was college. I was in college when it happened.
Yeah,
but
you had been in
like,
college.
Fuck. I was like, this is fucked up. So I'm thinking of the Crocodile Hunter.
Yeah, Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin died when you fucking know.
Yeah, he died in 2014. Robin Williams.
Oh yeah, Steve Irwin.
Actually, fuck it. I wasn't even in college. I was I was just dying at Wells Fargo. So maybe same thing. So it is definitely one of those things where there's a lot of dated shit. Bill Cosby's in it, but you know what? It is more for kids. Nabil, I have to agree with you. I was expecting a way sadder movie because I remember as a kid, like this movie made me sad. Just the way that it's set up. And then this time around, I was like, that wasn't that bad. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, that's why I was like, damn, I really don't want to see a sad movie right now. So I was holding off on watching it for so long. And then I got the fucking stomach flu. So I was like, fuck it, I'll watch it now.
Fever dream, baby. That's
yeah.
I was like, let's do it.
I'm in the movie too, guys. I was in the treehouse at one point. I was like, oh, what happened? And then I disappeared back to my bed.
He was fucking outside of my window just knocking. He was like, can I come inside? I was like, whoa, hey, bro. You right?
I actually laughed like quite a bit. Just because like the thing between the kids and stuff, I was like, that's shit that kids do, man. They talk like
he
that.
actually laughed, cried,
like
to be honest.
Shit, maybe, but I don't know. I thought it was funny. Obviously, not a perfect thing. It actually is. It gets to the point way quicker too. By the way, I was like, damn, I really thought there was a little more between this. So I mean, it's not the meatiest fucking thing, but I don't know. It worked for me. I like the overall message about life. I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I think you're fucking wild, but that's okay. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's a fair assessment. I thought it was okay. Surprisingly, no. I thought I was gonna fucking absolutely hate this movie.
It's got Robin Williams, bro. How the fuck are you gonna?
I think it's that. Look, I think it's because of Robin Williams and his legacy. And yeah, James, like you, I was fucked up when I heard he passed. You know,
dude. It was like
I watched Hook,
especially
for
our
a whole
age.
Week.
Especially for our age is what I'm saying. Like, I know Marco's like 74 years old in this, but I mean, for some of us, we grew up with like Miss Doubtfire and shit, you know? No, I'm just kidding. Marco did too. But and like, you know, it's like when you hear about certain actors, like, I mean, it's like, damn, like, really? That's fucked up, you know?
We watched a lot of Robin Williams movies with my dad.
Oh, by the way, I do love Hook. You guys know I love Hook, by the way, Marco. Just because.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
dude, I fucking love Hook. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Hook. Yeah. My username is based on someone from Hook, the Lost Boy.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Obviously,
I still that movie. Even though Spielberg is ashamed of it, I think that movie is still great.
It's crazy. I mean, Marco's wearing the green tunic right now. It's insane, dude. It's super tight on him, too.
It
is from 1991.
I ripped a few holes in it, but that's okay. Don't worry, I got the little yellow sword too. It looks like a knife on me.
Oh, you got that pocket knife on you, Marco? That's my sword.
Is that a fucking letter opener? What the fuck is that?
Why is it so shiny, man? I polish it every night. Damn, bro,
is he wearing Hook earrings? Bro, that wasn't even part of the wardrobe. Oh, shit.
You think you're a man?
But yeah.
Man, we gotta do Hook one day, guys.
I'm on the fucking roof, just like doing a rooster call.
Can you call like Hook? No, can you call like Pan?
Get off the fucking roof, freak! No. So yeah, dude, I think that I think the memory of Robin Williams helped bring my thoughts on this a little higher. That and Francis Ford Coppola, I see what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay, Bill Cosby scenes did not age too well. I'm just gonna say it, dude. Every scene was kind of cringy, just because, like, man.
Can I mention though? I did laugh at him though.
Yeah, there were some funny scenes. Yeah.
I liked.
When they're talking about farts, riffing. I just realized I was like, I'm 34. I'm immature as fuck. I just realized. I was like, oh, that's why my girlfriend that's younger than me, I think she's more mature than me or older than me at times. All right, this lines up. This lines up.
I watched this with my brother, and we were riffing on those scenes, on all his scenes. We were like, oh my god, this guy. We're like, keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him. Anyway. Oh, that's horrible.
I mean, there were
whatever.
Guys, there was no women in that one.
Yeah,
but
they're safe.
I mean, still, he's crazy.
Anyway, I know, dude. Isn't it weird? I mean, sidebar. Like, you guys definitely saw him. Like, he was already raping people a bunch by this time.
Yeah,
fuck. Yeah, I know. It's hard to separate the artist from the fucking project. But I'm like, oh fuck, it's too hard with this one, man. So
yeah,
no, the same way.
But yeah, it was okay. It was just kind of middle of the road for me. So, what did you think of Robin Williams' performance, Nabil, in this one?
I mean, I agree with James. That's what sells it. I actually, that was the more enjoyable part of the film, is that he played a child so well and in a serious way. Like, yeah, there were some comedy aspects of it, but his mannerisms, the way he was a timid child being around a bunch of kids he'd never had to be around. They showed the scene where he was in love with his teacher and just trying, I
was in love with his teacher too, so that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was
J-Lo.
Everything that he did, between spending time with his family, to his wanting to be out with his friends, to being too scared and wanting to be indoors now because he was ashamed. Like, he played it so real. Like, you totally believed that he was a child that just looked like a grown man. Like, it was easy to kind of follow suit with him.
The scene where he's crying in his dad's shoulders and he's begging him not to homeschool him again. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that scene kind of cut me deep, dude. He's just there and he runs to his dad, and it's like, yeah, he's in a full grown body, but his dad is there and just like holding him and, telling him it's going to be okay. So there were those scenes that I, like you said, Robin Williams sells it.
Yeah, definitely. Man.
Yeah, it was, I mean, that was a film, if there was anything around it that people were upset about, his performance in there, I think, was just solid for what he was supposed to be portraying. And that was great.
Absolutely. I agree. James, what were your thoughts on the overall plot, since you seem to enjoy this movie?
It's kind of it. I remember this movie being way fucking longer, dude. As a kid.
Yeah, I do too. I remember being longer.
Did we see a director's cut? Goddamn.
I really did.
Is it because it's 19 times on fucking HBO, and we're like, I'm just combining fucking two screens of this. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times back in the day, you didn't watch the whole thing through, like, because you had a black box. You're like, I'll be back. I'll be on again tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just pick it up. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But it's really like simple, actually. Now that I thought there was more time between when Jack is like, okay, because he has the heart condition, right? And he's aging faster, and they're like he needs to stay home. I swear to God, I thought that was like the majority of the film, not like the last 20 minutes. I was like, what the hell? I was like, what the hell? So I don't know why. So it's okay. Like I said, you know what this reminded me of, guys, and I didn't like it. Was
Big?
like his segment cope. No, I like Big. Big's
Yeah,
cool.
I like Big too.
Even though Big has got some stuff too, and like it reminded me of like New York Stories, his segment in there, right? That was very kid centric.
Yeah, the kid centric one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like as you guys know, I fucking hated that fucking whole thing. So it's like I was like, Jesus Christ, this was like a lot more enjoyable for me, but it moved quicker than I thought. Basically, is what I'm trying to say, and like it would have been nice just to get a little more drama out of it, but then. I get it. It's actually overall like a common. It's like I guess you could say a dramedy, right?
I would have liked to see more of the drama around his parents, because there was something there, like with Diane Lane's character specifically.
Too.
Yeah, you can hear like the frustrations that they're going through, the decision of having to go back to school, trying to have him deal with the pains of dealing with other kids and looking different. I mean, they don't even address, again, I go back to the falling in love with his teacher, him kissing Jennifer Lopez's teacher for a minute. And I think like J-Lo as a teacher, she handled that really well. I liked how that was portrayed on screen to kind of dismiss a child. Yeah, but that wasn't really addressed from a parent perspective, and he didn't go further into like there were some aspects of it where there was an entry of like this is going to be something dramatic that we want to touch on, but it was just kind of there, and they moved on to the next thing, or probably alleviated with comedy rather than letting the parents deal with it, or even Bill Cosby's character like address it a little bit to kind of coach him through it. You know, he didn't get a lot of the emotional support as a character. It was more you just got to see him experience it as a child, and then like a child move on to the next thing.
They didn't let those things breathe, really.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it just jumped from one to another, and it's like maybe kind of linger on that a little bit. You're touching on a very like serious topic there.
Serious topic,
the next minute we're having like fucking fart jokes and shit. There's also no consistency too. Some of the performances like didn't really help the some of the subplots and stuff. It was just like, oh, that seems kind of cringy. Like, man, were they reading their lines at that point? Anyway, any thoughts on the comedy, or I guess the drama that you wanted to add to, Nabil, aside from what you just said?
Well, like what James had talked about earlier, the treehouse scene was, I think, probably every time they were in the treehouse, there's a few of those scenes. That was where there was the more childish element of it, the child-focused comedy with teenage, or not teenage, but young boys playing around together, farting, making them eat disgusting things, talking about dirty magazines, being mean to girls, and then Bill Cosby's character coming over there trying to play with them too. Like that, all that, that was fun just to see them having fun and just acting like young kids, That
the amount of time
those kind of stood out well.
The amount of times they bought porno magazines, I was like, fuck, fourth time, guys?
I mean, it makes
really?
sense, though. I did think that was funny, that scene where he's like, hustler and these Tic Tacs.
And it was funny. He added more to the left than his behind him.
Shit.
Yeah.
Any other scenes that stood out for you, James?
The bar scene. I actually like that one.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Michael McKean was in there, dude.
Right? Yeah, I forgot that he was in there too. It's funny.
And I like Michael McKean a lot. And it almost, because you know why? I forgot about the whole scene, and I thought Michael McKean's character Paulie was going to be like a dick toward him or something, right? Because it kind of seems like it in the beginning, and then they're like fucking buddies by the end. I'm like, oh, he even helps him at the end. I'm like, that's cool. So, but that is another. I was gonna say that's another good scene of him, like just Robin Williams too, showing like his insults back to the guy are like kid insults, So it's like he's saying stuff that's like,
and people, the crowd was laughing around him too, though, right? They were like all with it. It's like, oh, even though they were childish insults.
Like, this is dumb as fuck. But I don't know why. I just like that. So.
No, that's a good scene.
And then obviously the end. I like the end too. This speech when he graduates, I thought it was really good. So
that was good. Yeah,
that was the Oscar shot. The teary eyes over there,
or the Razzie shot, depending which direction you go.
Technically.
What about you, Nabil? Anything that stood out for you?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, and you guys try to explain this to me because I feel like I was trying to explain this to my wife,
Oh my
and
God, I
she
gotta explain
thinks,
Jack to you. Go for it, man.
she thinks to me that she says that I'm wrong. I feel like the whole premise is that he's aging 4 times faster than any other person, right? So the way they explain it is that his cells are rapidly growing 4 times faster than everybody else. Anything outside of that, he's normal. So wouldn't his mind also be developing faster? Wouldn't he be going through stages of like puberty and intelligence and everything, processing things quicker as well? So wouldn't he also be 4 times smarter than a lot of other people? So
No.
that's where I was like, it's like reverse Benjamin Button. Like he's just growing faster, but he's not necessarily a child. He's only lived 10 years, but he should have a lot more. He may not be as mature as an adult.
The way I saw it, Nabil, is his physiology was aging faster than his mind.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
yeah, like his mind was aging.
But I mean, if all his cells are growing, wouldn't that also mean his brain is maturing faster?
That's true.
I mean,
So
but then
once
he
they didn't explain it
could
right.
still have the adult brain, but he still has the mindset of a child, though. Because he's being raised as a child. He's not being raised as a man when he was.
That's true. If that's how they're raising him,
and
and
look at it, they weren't at like 5, like, hey, you need to start looking for a job,
right?
But he could probably. I mean, technically, if you want to look into the way you're looking at it, he would have the mental capacity to understand that at an earlier age, obviously. But the whole thing was they were trying to give their son like a normal life still, like. This is
trying
how
to live out as a child.
Things, and because the whole basis of the film is that he does not have as much time as everyone else, so his time is limited, and which he talks about at the very end. And you have to make the most out of life. So like, don't ponder on the what ifs. It's just like, do as much as you can in the short amount of time that you have. So it's kind of like,
yeah. Did this movie strike you guys like as a Coppola film, or did you think it was odd that this was in his freaking filmography?
Yeah, so I think that if I didn't see the New York Stories short film with Coppola and his story of the young child and that whole scenario, I would have thought that this movie would have been out of his realm. But after seeing that, even though I know James wasn't a big fan of it, after seeing that, this film makes sense. Like it's got that childish lens towards it, and you get the perspective. I think that's something we didn't really touch on too much.
In it too, yeah, I know.
Well, there's always shitty acting around. I don't think everybody was that bad, to be honest, but I do think that like we got to see this film through a child's lens, like through Jack's perspective versus seeing everything through the adult's perspective. You got adjacent stuff a little bit, like we said, didn't touch too much on the adults and what they were going through raising a child like this. We only got adjacent stuff of that, but a lot of this film was focused on Jack and his perspective, and that makes sense when you're comparing it to watching a film like New York Stories.
We even got the POV shots, which I thought was kind of different.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like a child's
what about
perspective.
Yeah. What about you for you, James? Did this strike you odd for a Coppola film, or did one that Bill check out?
I'm echoing the Bills there. Like if it would let's say this much, it would have been more odd if we hadn't watched all the other films, I think, leading up to this, because then we wouldn't have any context to like what he's done before. And obviously, like most people that probably watch it, or you probably just know about like the heavy hitters, I'm assuming. So it's like,
right,
so not really. I don't think it was super odd, like the Bill said. So I agree with him.
Yeah, I think when the Bill says checks out too, it's if it weren't for New York Stories, then we wouldn't have seen like kind of the proto version of this and what a Coppola child like film would look like.
Family movie, I guess.
Yeah, family movie. But we got a taste of it there, and now we got to see a full feature one, and it had its bumps on the road. Wasn't necessarily perfect. Kind of, like I said, middle of the road.
Yeah.
So that being said, I think we've reached the moment where we rate the film 1 out of 5 stars, with 5 stars being great, 1 star being, poop, or 0 stars being poop, actually. I think I'll start with BDJ on this one. Jimmy.
Well, I mean, I'm probably going to rate this the highest out of anybody. I give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Oh, damn. Okay. Look at that. All right. A little shocking there. All right. What about you, Nabil? What do you rate this film?
I gave this a 3. stars out of 5.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I'd watch it again, right? Like it's a film I'd still see. So I don't think it was a terrible film. It's tailored to kids.
I guess I'm the odd duck here. I'm the lowest one. I gave it 2.5 stars. You know, it's not great. It's not super bad. It's got its charm to it. I mean, again, we've all said it numerous times. Robin Williams, sells it. It's a Coppola film, and he does add his own little style to it. I agree with James that the message and the speech at the end that he gives, I think, is touching, especially if you're, in a weird place in your life or whatever. I think it'll really hit home. So, yeah. With that, I know you guys would probably recommend it. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Maybe to someone who has a kid.
Worth a watch. Good Robin Williams film, if anything.
I think if you've never seen it too, I think it's could be a little hidden gem, maybe. So.
Yeah, I'd say maybe if you're curious. I mean, it's on Disney Plus. I mean, if you're already paying for the subscription, it's not really going to cost you extra. So, yeah, pretty much it.
Yeah.
Any other closing thoughts, guys? Do you guys have?
Yeah, that opening scene was not what I was expecting. With I was like, "What am I watching?"
That was kind of wild. I'm not gonna lie, though. I will say
that was very Coppola-esque right there. There's a lot of intensity happening.
Well, one thing I didn't mention was the whole basketball scene when he's playing basketball. I think that scene was also
dunking on them kids.
Yeah, I was like,
I would assume he would. Shit, that fucking thing was lowered. I'd be like, just dunk on him, bro.
Yeah. And he's just bragging to his dad after. I thought that was touching. So yeah,
the scene where he's actually telling his dad about his Dane stuff, it reminds me of how like a kid talks and tells you shit too.
that was.
It's like slow the fuck down, dude. You're telling me a lot of shit that I have no context to. Like, okay, and his dad's just like, yeah, that sounds great, I'm like, been there. I just got nieces and nephews, but I'm like, sure, yeah,
just all nonsense.
Yeah. Anyways, I gotta go.
No, good stuff.
It's cool seeing Diane Lane, by the way. As we know now, also seeing all these films, like this is her third or fourth Coppola film.
Yeah,
so.
Still good.
I'm surprised.
Still doing great.
It's also something I didn't know. Well, that concludes our review of the Francis Ford Coppola film, Jack.
Thank you, Marco. Let's move on now to our review of Evil Dead Rise.
No matter how busy you ever got, you always found time for me. I can't believe I'm never going to speak to you again.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother,
What is this, Danny?
I found it.
what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be? Here's what she said to me.
It's me.
Don't let it take my babies. This is what happened to Paul. It happened to us.
This evil creates terror through total chaos.
Evil Dead Rise. It's currently sitting with an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. The story is a twisted tale of two estranged sisters whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable. The film was directed by Lee Cronin, who also did The Hole in the Ground in 2019, and he's also was the writer of this film. The film is currently in theaters as of April 21st. It stars Lily Sullivan as Beth, Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie, Morgan Davies as Danny, Gabrielle Eccles as Bridget, and Nell Fisher as Cassie. So I'm going to start with James, and because he's our resident Evil Dead specialist here, before we go into anything else, what did you think about this film compared to some of the Evil Dead films, the other ones?
You want me to start with that first, like comparing it to the ones?
Mm-hmm.
It's a That's a tough one, actually. I would say that it's a smaller kind of story overall. It's a little bit more contained than the other Evil Dead films, if that makes sense. As you guys know, I believe last year we watched all of them, right? Was it last year or year before?
Yeah, I think it was last. Yes,
Yeah,
it was
I think
last
so.
year.
Yeah, thanks for all 72 people that listened to that one. You didn't do well.
We appreciate you.
So, yeah, fuck you guys.
It was a great series, though, guys.
Yeah, and I've even watched all 3 seasons of Ash vs. Evil Dead. So
Mhm.
comparing it to it's definitely the least funny, if that makes sense, out of all of them. Not a lot of comedy in this one. A lot more just straight to the horror, but it does have that same kind of spirit of everything too. But as you guys probably know, this was originally made to come out as an HBO Max like original film or something like that too.
Straight to streaming, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it kind of
But
has
it
that
did-
feel to it sometimes, I think, because it's just kind of more contained. It's like a smaller story,
setting.
but I liked it.
Yeah.
Though. I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. So
What did you think about the actual characters in the film? And did you feel like this, where like in the other films, with the exception of, I guess, the most recent 10-year-old film of the Evil Dead,
10 years ago, which is crazy.
Do you feel like there was a standout like Ash was in those original films? Was there anything unique here, or did they all kind of play their part? Like, how did you feel about the characters?
I liked. I mean, Beth is basically like our protagonist. I would say, if you're going to look at anybody that's in that kind of Ash role, which I'm still not trying to compare to Ash, because Ash is such a unique
Iconic
character, and
character,
even like the 2013 version of Ash is like she was pretty kick-ass too. Beth is really cool. I think the biggest standout really is Alyssa Sutherland, who is, if you've seen the trailer, she's the mother, and she's infected pretty early on, and I think she does a great job as. I would say that she's probably technically the antagonist of the film, if you look at it that way, or at least possessed by the
to an
antagonist.
extent, yeah.
So I think she's a standout. She's really creepy at times, and she's super over the top. It's pretty awesome. So yeah.
What about you, Marco? How did you feel about the characters in this film?
I thought that they all worked well, man. I thought that they did a great job at establishing the family at first and kind of giving us a point of view of where their situation was. They weren't necessarily in a good situation in life. I mean, they were just not really big of a spoiler, but I mean, they were getting ready to get evicted and shit within like 30 days, and then all of a sudden this shit happens to them. And I agree with James that the mother character, I think she was definitely, the standout. She was a scene stealer. Like, she goes from being this, kind of caring, stressed out mother to just being this, super evil possessed being that just does a whole bunch of fucked up shit. There's some
quick
scenes
too, Marco. Right? I would say, like, it's a quick turn. Like,
yeah, dude.
She like, did. That's it. We're not getting more of the last one. Like, it's going straight to this shit now.
She has this fucking smile that's so with her eyes, like she does this face. It's super creepy, and they do different. You see it from different like aspects, like a close up, a medium shot, and one where she's far away, where you can still distinctively see her face, and it is fucking freaky. And I'm like, God damn, that's good. But yeah, I think that the characters, all worked out. The brother, Danny, you think maybe, he's going to be like, useless throughout the movie, but he's not. He's, protective brother. The two sisters I felt were really good in it as well too. The acting of the younger daughter, Cassie, Nell Fisher. You know how I am with kid actors, man. They're either hit or miss. She did really good, dude. There's some scenes where I'm just like, damn, dude, she's fucking killing these scenes. For like a smaller budget movie, that's actually pretty cool. So, yeah, man.
How do you feel, Marco, like with the sense of, such stronger character actors in this film? How do you feel that added to the overall like plot of this film? I know James mentioned it is kind of a more contained, smaller movie. Do you think with this kind of premise that it did it justice, like it served well, or do you think that we should have gotten more from this movie? Like, what did you think about the film overall in that sense?
Truthfully, I think it was enough for the type of story it was. I mean, they were, obviously inspired from the other films in the series, but for the setting and for the aspects that they took from the original series, I think it worked. I think the smaller scale added that bit of more realism. We recently saw a movie that, that took place, in one single setting, Knock at the Cabin. That fucking movie also, worked for its plot. And I think that this movie, sort of took a page off of that, and it makes you sort of care more for the characters as well. It added stakes to the movie, and for some reason it made it that much more, creepier. I think it was just enough, and the smaller budget, I think, helped elevate the story, because you don't have enough money to showcase this grand set piece or whatever, so you have to make the characters do more to carry the film, and I think that worked.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and even more so the sense of the stakes were much heavier because you're dealing with a specific family. So each person who's impacted by the events that are going on, it feels more visceral. Like you feel, it's not like the teenage cheerleader at the jock, making out over here, and then somebody gets murdered in the corner, or the nerd over here that's going to get, survive to the end, or whatever it is. Like, those tropes aren't really there, and you get to see it's really the family. I mean, like the mother, Ellie, she's kind of punk, right? She's got a punk aspect. She's a tattoo artist, something like that. And then the sister is I think she's a guitar technician. So they all have like this kind of punkish aspect. And then the kids also have their things. One person is a DJ. The other one is like a eco warrior kind of thing. And then the youngest one is just kind of, just a girl who likes to do crazy things with her dolls. Like it's, but it's a family unit. Like you can see everybody's kind of connected in that way, and their personalities are out over there. And so even that brief intro of what their unique traits are, and then how that kind of transitions into the film, adds on to the level of connection that you have and what's going on with them and what happens to them. And that also, I think, because of the fact that it's all this family, each thing that happens to them adds on a lot more to that horror element. Like, you feel more fearful, like it impacts you a bit more. At least it did for me. Like some of the aspects of the realistic things where things were being tearing off of earlobes, or somebody getting cut somewhere. Like,
you want them all to survive.
Like, you don't know what's going to happen or how intense those wounds are, and you feel like, oh no, I hope that you don't know what their outcome is going to be like. James, what were your thoughts on the actual, like, the level of horror and gore for this film, especially compared to, Evil Dead historically has been very gory, more in a comedic sense, but it has a lot of gore and horror elements to it. Do you feel like this amped that up? Do you think it was just more scary in general? Like, how did you feel about the horror part of it?
I think they do a really good job with it here. It's not as like, I don't know. I think the 2013 one is like the goriest, I think. Truth be told.
Yeah.
And horror wise, I think it's the one that's ramped up the most. But this one does have its moments where there's like, a lot of blink and you miss it things, or like when I'll go to the spoilers, I think, truthfully, on that one. But there are moments in it that are pretty, up there, especially even just the beginning, like cold opening, as a scene where someone's getting like scalped, for God's sake. So
yeah, that was very intense and unexpected. And what about, Marco, on your end? I know we've talked a lot about things that we enjoyed about this movie, really, and some of the horror elements even. But was there anything that you felt like was lacking in this film? Again, being that it's a smaller, more contained film, do you feel like there was something we needed more of in here?
Not necessarily. There were a couple things. The first being, and this isn't like, I'm not ragging on the film or anything, but I expected it to be a little more comedic, kind of like the original films. So I was surprised it had less comedy and focused more, like James was saying, more on the horror and the gore. I didn't mind that too much. It's just sort of that something I was expecting, it being part of the Evil Dead franchise. So just maybe that I was just kind of like surprised more than anything. Didn't really feel it was missing. However, I felt like some of the other movies were a little bit more like spiritual, I guess. There was a lot more elements of the unknown presence, and really all we got is Beth being possessed, and then her turning, whoever she killed into deadites. It was limited, and I guess that's mainly partly due from it originally being first stream only on HBO Max and then being moved to theaters and working with the restraints of their budget. But nothing.
Do you feel that, just to ask, I know James even mentioned at the beginning, like this film was more tailored for streaming only. Watching it in theaters, did you get that feeling that this was more of a streaming film? Even though it was a more contained movie, do you feel that this didn't warrant a theatrical release?
No, I didn't feel that at all. I think we recently experienced a movie that was sort of similar, where it took place in one single location. That was Knock at the Cabin, and it kind of in the same spirit. Both were low budget, took place in one location. Both are theatrical releases, and it worked. When I read it was supposed to be stream only, I was actually shocked. I was like, oh, I didn't know that, but it still worked on the big screen.
All right, so let's talk about what our ratings are for this film before we go into the spoilers section here. James, start with you. How many stars would you give this film?
I would give this one a 4 out of 5.
Very solid. How about you, Marco? How many stars out of 5?
I would also give this one a 4 out of 5 stars.
I gave it a little less than both of you. I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5, but still a good time. All right, so we're going to jump into our spoiler section in just a moment here. There's not a lot to really spoil. It's more just talking a little bit more about some of the deaths and the subplots over here that were going on that we didn't want to spoil for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. So if you haven't seen this film yet, go ahead and just jump forward a little bit. You'll be able to hear what we're going to be watching next. If not, stick with us and we'll go into a bit more detail of the film in the spoilers. So let me just say from the start that I was surprised by how many people actually died in the family. Those poor kids. I expected them all to kind of live. Yeah.
I think that's one of those things where it's like an expectation. Like kids don't normally die in these horror films, right? So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely one of those things where in this one they throw you for a loop, and it's even to the point where as soon as you're infected, like you're done for in this one. So,
right.
Yeah.
Rid of those expectations, though.
I think that helped with kind of changing things up a bit, rather than just having a bunch of zombies around you or something like that. Because I guess that is a trope, right? Like you said, James, kids don't usually die. They kind of thrive throughout the film, but the fact that they not only died, but they became deadites and were in their own way. Was it like a homunculus kind of thing that they formed at the end? They kind of all joined together.
Yeah, they formed some kind of a creature.
Yeah.
Ellie, Danny, and their adopted daughter Bridget, because she didn't look like fucking anyone. But yeah,
she maybe just dyed her hair. Who knows?
But Mikey and I looked over. I said, "Why does the one kid look like she's like?" Does not look like anyone else. In this
Wasn't there? I heard a theory about her too, that they were thinking that she might actually be the daughter of Beth, but kind of like gave up. Like there was a small little theory.
You did a deep dive in that shit.
I did see a little bit. I was like, no,
dang.
I feel like that would have been addressed in the film, but yeah, because she's
kept calling her a groupie.
Pregnant. Yeah, exactly. So what did you think about the James? Just to kind of go to you in regards to the multiple deadites, each family member essentially becoming a version of it. Do you think that helped ramp up some of the horror aspect? Because I feel like Ellie was not as, like, she was definitely in the film, but she wasn't as prevalent as they were showing in the trailers. Like they left enough room for some of the other, I guess, deadites in this film.
She's like the main one.
Great?
I think she was pretty prevalent from what I saw. Like
she's just locked in the hallway half the time.
She gets in though. And then there's, the struggle and the fighting. And I mean, once again, like I said, like it's a smaller kind of story, but the fact that the kids start turning into it and start attacking it, that ramps it up because they're locked in there with them, So even like the neighbors that die outside in the hallway become deadites or, some form of them. So it's like, it just adds more stakes to it. So.
Yeah, I think that was my, that threw me off a bit because when I saw the neighbors come in, I was like, okay, so these people are all going to die because they need
I said the same
kill somebody.
Too.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, so I was like, well, the kids are going to live obviously because they've got all these other collateral damage around you that's just going to kill.
This is some cannon fodder.
They didn't spend too much time on the neighbors, so it's like right off the bat, it's like, all right, they're all dead.
Do they
This
even
gave
like
you
hint,
enough.
like one of the neighbors maybe likes Bridget or something, but then it's
Right.
just like, don't worry about it. He's gonna be dead.
Oh yeah, dude gets his eye bit off. It's like, not gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Oh, such a. So some of those gory aspects. How did you feel, Marco, about what they really showed? Like the guy had his eye out. The fucking, like James was mentioning, eating glass. The scissors being stabbed at various parts of people's bodies. The cheese grater. I had to turn my head away from that.
Yeah, dude. It was they went balls to the wall with that shit, and I loved it, dude. And I like that they had some levity, but not a lot. I don't think it needed more comedic scenes, though the original series did. But it worked for me, dude. I liked that it went gory. I was actually quite surprised. I'm like, holy shit. And to hear you guys say that the 2013 one is even gorier, I'm like, how much more gorier than this can it get? Because that was pretty fucking intense.
I think it was gorier. This is more cringy.
Cutter to literally cut their arm off that one. So.
Yeah, well, that scene always haunts me. What she had the knife or something go in between her tongue, like in such a slow visualization, like that still haunts me. I think about
the 2013 one has I almost said some inappropriate words. A lady cutting her face off, and like you can hear the chopping of it. I mean, it doesn't get much. I mean, that's also for Dave Alvarez or something that did that one. He's really become a really good horror director too. So, but this one's up there. I don't think it's as gory.
I mean, it has its elements. Yeah,
good second, in my opinion, at least. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's plenty of blood. I mean, between the bile spit up,
man,
blood being drawn on these kids in the elevator. Yeah, like it's everywhere.
Oh, the homage to The Shining. I loved that, by the way.
Yeah. There was even some kind of like a fan service of like manga or hentai kind of thing with the cords being wrapped around the Ellie near the beginning of the film before she's like turning. Like,
I would say that reminded me of the trees from Evil Dead 1 and 2.
Yep.
Like kill the girl in those two.
And just kind of hanging up over there. Yeah, like that was
wraps around her and stuff like that. So yeah.
And James, we talked a little bit earlier about how it compared to the other Evil Dead films. There were some connections that they tried to bring into it. I want to ask you, because I felt it was out of place. Beth, in the end, whenever I think she says a line that says like "come get some" or something like that. And I think I'm going to say that
I cheered when she said that. I was like, there we go. I was like, there's some connection.
Nice. Do you feel that was in character? You feel like that was just kind of there as a, I mean, it was good to see that, but do you think it fit with the film?
Yeah, it worked for me. I mean, I needed a little something, and that's Crash-ish. I mean, there's also like ashes in the recording, right?
Mm-hmm. He's Bruce Campbell in it.
Yeah. So I mean, I won't spoil Ash vs. Evil Dead, but he does some time travel near the end of that one, so like it makes sense. So.
See, I didn't finish the season. I was trying to figure out why his voice was there. I was like, that would have been the 20s. When did he go into the 20s?
Yeah, the ending of that show is pretty open because I didn't think it was gonna. I think they expected to probably do another season too, but and then like in Army of Darkness, there's 5 or 6 Necronomicons, right?
I thought it was just the 3 books. Mm-hmm. Is there 5 or 6? I thought it was
like
just
5
3
or
books.
6. So each one is supposedly a different demon. And there's a main one for those first 3. The 2013 uses another one, and then this one has another one too. That's why they look slightly different.
I like that aspect of it. Like they are all connected, but in a different way. So it's not. Yeah. So if they want to continue making movies, they can just
really
have
to watch the other ones too before you see this one.
Right.
I mean, it helps for some of the references, but I don't think it's like necessary if you want to just go see a horror film, But the chainsaw was a little. I knew that was going to be like big by then too, and I was like, okay, that's when they really start putting it on a little too heavy. I think at that point, but
all she was missing was getting her head off.
The chainsaw was the same color of the car from the first one too, which is pretty cool.
They didn't have. Color, right? Did you see that, Marco? That they have the an Oldsmobile or something that they had before?
No, the car's
not in it.
No, the car's not. They used a Buick in this one.
Put it in the one.
Yeah. So. Yeah, because usually he has his old car in there.
Although it is in the 2013 one in the backyard, so I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you guys love the very end credit, the little secret scene over there, where there's just a fly buzzing around? I stayed for the whole credits for that.
I did not stay.
It's just a fly.
I didn't either.
I like how it does connect to the beginning of it, though. And you find
It
out,
does.
like, oh, that's how like the chick got possessed, and I guess it's just
Apparently, she was like the lady didn't hear anything. She was just sleeping the whole
She
time.
I was thinking the
just
same thing. I'm
upstairs the
like,
whole
this
time?
girl was she was on the 5th floor. She wasn't on the same floor. I get it. So like,
Yeah.
and she's
There was
talking
an
about like
earthquake that had-
cell signal, and yeah, I guess, yeah, that was like, damn, you didn't hear one thing though. Like,
Actually, you know
Shocking.
what? Truthfully, it checks out because if all the neighbors would have just stayed in their fucking apartments, they would have lived. Think about it.
yeah, but you didn't hear a shotgun go off like 6 times. Like
Right.
that's pretty loud.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
But maybe she's a heavy sleeper. Who knows?
Could be.
Well, I mean,
She had a big old
definitely-
trip. She had a big old
earthquakes.
trip set
Trip
up.
set
Who
up.
knows, guys? Right? God.
yeah.
So
I mean, she
Yeah.
was possessed, picked up her sister, went to a lake house. Like, there's a lot
True.
that happened.
Didn't feel good. Sat in that weird ass cabin that looks like it's from fucking Midsummer, and then fucking just started killing people.
Marco, any other thoughts you wanted to give on this film, or any other bits of spoilery things that you wanted to discuss here?
Just that if the gore worked, I can't get over the fact how fucking gory it was, man. The homages to the previous movies I think worked too. They had a few lines that they kept mentioning, like "Dead by Dawn," "I'll swallow your soul," which were from the previous films. They had plenty of callbacks and Easter eggs to the previous films. Overall, I think the movie was pretty tight for the most part. James added that they ended up connecting it, full circle from the beginning all the way to the end, and I like that too. The subversions that they did, like all the fucking kids dying, like that's pretty fucking sad, man. I mean, damn, like chick lost like her sister and 2 of her nephews and nieces, and now she's stuck raising her little niece and is pregnant. It's there were a lot of stakes put into the movie, and I like that. It made you care. Most horror movies just use the characters as cannon fodder, and this one actually like made you root for them and not want them to perish. And I like that.
I will say I don't agree with you on Danny though. I thought he was annoying as fuck.
I liked it,
Couldn't
man.
stand
he
him.
was
He's the
protective
cause
of
of
his
this whole
family.
thing. I
I was going to say, James, I was going to ask you, did you get mad at him?
Yeah, when he's like, it's all my fault, and they're like, no, it's not. I was like, yeah, it is.
No, it's totally your fault.
I said the
You didn't
Samuel
listen at
Jackson
all.
line, actually. I was like, and he deserves to die. So
He paid the price though. He protected his sister and took a knife to the chest.
But once again, it's all because he started it, and he was like, let's go into this mysterious thing. I'd have been like, don't do it, kid. What are you, fucking crazy? And also, why did they drop that pizza in the beginning, and then they were like, it's ruined? I'm like, looks fine to me.
It looked fine.
No, it's
I
not.
would have taken that. Yeah.
It's in the box.
There's
It's
like
still
3
not-
pizzas over there. They didn't all get destroyed.
I need it.
The scene in the hallway where they're escaping and they just see the deadites on the floor and stuff. I don't know why. I'm playing the Resident Evil 2 remake, right? That dead ass reminded me of Resident Evil 2 for some reason. Like with the lights flickering and shit, and her having to walk there through that with the shotgun, and even like the final like monster at the end. I was like, man, kind of reminds me of Resident Evil right now. I'm not gonna lie. This guy
There was,
should
I
direct a
mean,
Resident Evil
there was a
movie.
lot of good tension in that hallway scene with them trying to escape and getting into the other room. They get to the fire escape. Like I did enjoy that scene.
You never make it into the room.
Yeah, they never made it into it. It was all what do they call, like a red herring kind of thing.
Red herring.
Like it's
Yeah.
I mean, they tried
Nothing
to, but
happened.
they just realized they can't get into it. They're like, fuck.
Yeah. And I was wondering like how they were going to end up getting down to the ground floor. So the too much blood in that elevator couldn't handle the weight capacity.
Yeah, when
So
they
very
do crash, I was
convenient.
like, they should be technically dead.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think the water would have cushioned their fall there, guys. But okay.
But I mean, whatever.
But it still was good. It was a very good tense scene, even when they were trying to escape. And I did, even though she had the chainsaw, it was obviously callbacks to the other Evil Dead films. Like that whole scene of like the mix of the different Deadites together coming and attacking them and getting into the wood chipper. Like that was pretty tense. You didn't know exactly how that was going to play out, but
It was very
yeah, you
Event
knew-
Horizon like with the creature.
Yeah.
If you guys have seen
Yep.
that film. That's what it reminded me of.
So I mean, I enjoyed that aspect. The tension was there, and it made you want to know how things were going to go forward. Like they didn't keep, even though some of the old tropes were a part of the film, at the same time it was fresh enough that you stayed enthralled into the movie, you know. So I like that aspect of it, and I think all the Evil Dead films are like that. You know, the earlier ones a little corny, but it was not in a bad way. Like you enjoyed it, not even corny, campy more than anything, but you know, you wanted to see how things were going to play out. Even the 2013 Evil Dead was the same way, a little bit more comedy, but very gory, and yet a fresh take on an old movie. And this is kind of the same thing. Like each one of these have been pretty solid entries in what they're giving you, and your interest is always kind of peaked as you're going through it, because you really don't know what's going to happen next, even if you think you do.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I agree. I would even say, you know, like all Evil Dead stuff, I think has been pretty solid, regardless of, you know, opinions on them. So
hopefully they don't wait another 10 years. We can get maybe another film in about 2 or 3 years, or another kind of series. Would be good. They kind of keep this franchise going, because they're pretty solid horror films.
All right. And with that is the end of our review of Evil Dead Rise. And that's the end of the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Marco, let them know how they can reach us.
Listen and follow us on your favorite podcast service. Trust us, we're on all of them. For a quick link to all our socials, visit linktree/moviepalspod. Thank you, and make sure to smash that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Make sure you also stay tuned for our next episode, episode 149, where we're going to be reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Thank you, Nabil. Until next time, this is James.
And Marco.
And Nabil.
Have a good one.